It's the last weekend in July. Can you believe it? It's already running away. This is when Chicagoans get fairly manic about their summer. So tonight's Venetian night. Tomorrow is our fourth annual Clark Street Festival, and I'll talk more about their great musical lineup in a little bit. But remember, tomorrow from about 1 p.m. till 10 p.m., there will be music and food and nice events for kids all up and down Clark Street from Wallen to Estes. It's part of our wonderful and diverse neighborhood showing itself off once again. But I'm really, really happy to welcome some fellow members and a couple of the founders here of the Rogers Park Garden Group, Pam Van Geissen and Allison Zehr. Pam,
Hello.
good morning.
Good morning.
Good
And
morning.
I'm glad to have you gals here because you have been so wonderful at putting this group together and keeping it together.
Thanks.
So it's, what is it, 3 years, Allison?
Yeah, we're on our third year now. When we first started, we had no idea how many people were going to show up. We had our first meeting was in April 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
And we thought maybe 20 people would come. We had it at Charmers. We thought, we'll just sort of hang around at a couple tables and talk about gardens and flowers. We had 40 people show up for the first meeting. And by the end of the first year, we had, 132 members?
Pretty much.
And now we're up to
200.
200 members, signed up members?
Oh, and counting. 200 members and counting.
Holy smokers. So is that reflected in the greening of Rogers Park, would you say?
I think so. I think people are just more interested in taking an interest in the community and in helping out, whether it's in time or money. So maybe they don't have a garden, maybe they don't know how to garden, maybe they don't really have time, but they will toss us some money to help buy plants.
Mm-hmm. Well, I attended maybe one of the second or third meetings, and it was at the Presbyterian Church, and
Yeah.
that was completely packed.
Yeah.
I think there were like 60 people there. And I think another time that we were talking on the radio about this, what thrilled me the most about that gathering was it was right after, or possibly still during, no, it was right after a particularly contentious election season in the neighborhood. And it was the first time that everyone, all the various supporters of all the various candidates, found a common ground, so to speak.
Yep.
And I really treasure that in the neighborhood because whatever else is said about us here at the Heartland, we actually welcome everyone and know that that's the only way we're going to survive as a neighborhood, a city, a nation, et cetera, is figure out how to get along even if we disagree.
And I think that's a really good illustration of the fact that we do want to get along. If we
Amen.
can find a subject that we feel comfortable with, we will all gather someplace. And gardening, what could be a better topic than gardening or art that can bring people together? Who cares what their politics are or their
Right.
religion is or their
Pensions.
future desires or whatever.
Right.
We
Yeah.
can all say we love gardening.
Yeah, and you brought up art too, and that's the other thing that does in fact get actively participated in our neighborhood by all. And we always talk about the Artists of the Wall Festival each year when that comes around, and soon there'll be the Arts District Festival, the Glenwood Avenue Arts Fest, at the end of August. But you truly have made a real difference. And let's talk about starting with the Circle Garden.
That was the first project that serendipitously happened the first year.
Simultaneously, right.
Right, and if we had to plan it, we would never have done it. But one of the founding members was approached by someone on the beach who lived on Farwell in that area and really wanted to see those big planters at the end of Morse and Loyola Park brought back to life and growing something other than litter.
Yeah.
And begged and pleaded Karen McCarthy for some assistance, and she came back to the rest of us, and we were barely
underway.
Yeah,
that's right.
And said, could we do this? And we thought, well, this is insane. And we said, well, why not? Let's just try it and
Jump in.
and see what happens. And we did. And the response by the community was pretty spectacular. People tossed in money, $10 here and there, without really a lot of big fundraising efforts, and people showed up to volunteer.
Always the best way.
And people showed up to volunteer on planting day, and we got a decent crowd of people, including some little children who came and had a fabulous time playing in the dirt. And I think that the thing about Circle Gardens, and it continues to grow, and Bob McSorley is the neighbor who is really the caretaker of that space. But it's continued to grow. But what really warms my heart about that space is walking by and seeing people just walking by and picking up litter, and seeing older people sitting there and playing chess and checkers, and ladies with babies in their strollers, enjoying that space. Because 5 years ago, no one was enjoying that space,
Except for some after-hours drinking.
Yeah, which contributed to the litter.
Absolutely.
So it's just, and even, and this is how I think a garden can really change behaviors. Even maybe the folks who are engaging in the after-hours drinking,
right?
They even sit there and say, it's a pretty garden.
Right.
And I think that's great. If a drunk is enjoying the garden, that's fabulous.
Amen to that.
But I think that the success of that Circle Garden was really a part and parcel of what happened from the very beginning. It's like you said, when we walked into one of the early meetings, there were 60 people in that room. And there was something about the timing of when we did this garden group, because when we thought about this, we knew we wanted to do just regular garden meetings. Every garden group has, once a month meetings. That's pretty simple to
Ladies
figure out.
Ladies who meet.
Yeah. And, talk about gardens,
Amen.
So what. But we also knew we wanted to do community gardens. We talked about that from the very beginning, that we wanted to really make a difference in Rogers Park, and our mission statement says that, and so forth. And we also knew as a part of our thinking about what we were going to do every month, we didn't want to just meet every single month. So we said, well, let's have a plant swap. And, let's do a garden meander instead of a walk.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to be small. So we thought small.
Yeah.
For everything that we did.
Perfect.
The very first year, though.
Yeah.
Tons of people show up for the meander.
70 people showed up for that meander.
And the treasures, the Garden of Treasures, which was the plant swap, turned into this great big
huge
sale that became a real kind of neighborhood festival kind of thing.
That's exactly right.
And the community garden that we were going to do, the little community garden, ended up being, transforming those fabulous planters that were there before.
Yeah, and just so that our listeners know what we're talking about when you talk about the fabulous planters, is an existing site at the end of Morse Avenue as you walk into the park here. One of our treasures in Rogers Park is the street end beaches that we protect so heavily. But these planters pre-existed, and they had fallen into disrepair, and no one was...
Very weedy.
Yeah, full of weeds, and no real plan of attack. Now, when you guys did plant those two big, beautiful, round planters, you did one more of a shady and one a sunny, right?
Right.
And that has worked really well.
Yeah, it has. And we planted trees in the planters already had a couple of trees.
That's
and in one planter, we took all the trees down. We got, that one of the neighbors got a rototiller, and we were able to use that.
Neighbors.
In the other planter, though, there were two crabapple trees, and one of them was dead.
Right.
And we weren't quite sure how to get rid of the dead tree, if the park district would actually let us take a tree down. Before we knew it, somebody had gone out in the middle of the night and just pushed it over. It was really kind of amazing.
Guerrilla gardening.
There has been an element of guerrilla gardening to this.
It wouldn't be Rogers Park if there wasn't a little of that going on.